Oh, it's so sad the way that we have been taught to believe that money should be unimportant, right? Money doesn't matter. Money can't buy happiness. Like we try to dismiss money as an
Yeah.
important thing in our lives when the truth, it is the thing. It is
Yeah.
the thing that determines what you are able to do. There is no decision that you can make in your life that doesn't end up coming back to a financial decision. Like none of us choose our careers and think, well, it doesn't matter how much money I make. I don't care about the pay at all. I'm just going to go do this job. Of course not. Even things like our hobbies cost money, self-care
Yeah.
costs money. So to and we turn money is our best friend when we're sad, right? Who doesn't turn to money to solve problems? We all do, and yet we ignore it. We're kind of like the worst friends to money, but money is always there for us. So the fact that we've internalized this idea that money can be something that we don't ever even think about is setting us all up for failure.
Money to me is energy. It's the return of the energy I put into the world. And the more people that I help, the more money or the more energy is returned to me. And me holding on to that money is holding on to like kinetic energy. It's the ability to ask of somebody else's time and energy, whether it's
Mhm.
buying a purse, whether it's going on a vacation, getting a car I want. You're essentially buying the labor, the time of other people. So when I looked at it from that standpoint and said, hey, if I have more emotional energy, I should be able to make significantly more money in a happier place in my life. If I can get
Mhm.
to a better place, then I'll have more energy to put out. And it's exactly kind of what happened. You said you put things out in the world, but this is, for me, it was that relationship with money, turning it into that thought, as opposed to, because at that point I wasn't no longer losing everything. It wasn't about losing everything. It was about getting back more energy that I could then turn into money.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so powerful recognizing that money is a way of compensating people for the value that they add to our lives. Like you mentioned, when you buy a purse, you're not just buying a purse, you're buying the artistry of all of the people that touched that item before it
Yeah.
came to you. And the powerful thing is that the more money you have, the more you're able to pour into other people, like reaching that point where you see an item and you're like, that's the value you put on it. I value it at that too. I don't resent you getting this money. I want you to have this money. I appreciate your work. Thank you. Like if we just
Yeah.
start seeing transactions as a way to be thankful for the value that we're receiving, boy, that helps lift some of that emotional baggage around money and it brings joy into transactions.
So you're at this point where you're a single mother. You're doing things with your money that nobody thinks is possible, especially as an E3. $24,000 a year is not a lot of money. But you clearly understand it better than most do. So now, walk me kind of going from that point. Where does this story go? Like, are you staying in the military? When does law school come into play?
So at this point, after buying my first house, I end up and I start taking college classes because I know I'm not staying in the military because
Yeah.
I'm looking at my spending plan and I'm like, there's a lot more that I want to do with my life. There's more that I want to experience. I want to be able to provide differently for my daughter. And the military is not going to get me there. I've got to figure out a different way to get there. So I
Yeah.
started taking classes in the evenings. They were online classes. And to do that, I used debt a lot during this time. I also want to point that out because part of
Hmm.
my mission is to de-vilify debt as the reason why people struggle financially. Debt
Yeah.
is a symptom. Overuse of debt is a symptom of other financial problems. So for me, I financed everything I purchased because I needed that flexibility because I didn't have $1,000 to drop on a living room set, but I did have
Yeah.
$50 that I could pay over the course of a year and a half. So I financed a Dell computer, right? Remember when we all used to just get desktops? So I
Yeah.
got a Dell desktop. It was $600 and I paid for that in installments. I think it was $35 a month. And I started to take classes online. It was hard because I'm trying to make all these purchases, navigate life, prepare for this child coming. I mean, I don't even own a bed right now. I've got a car, but I don't
Yeah.
have a bed. And life is expensive. Life costs money. So I'm looking at how can I navigate buying these things, moving out of the barracks. So now I've got to start paying rent. And how do I do that? So I started looking for the cheapest ways to do that. First, by moving in with roommates, which I realized was just really gross. Maybe I took the wrong, like, picked the wrong people, but I'm like, no, I can't live with people. I can't do this. Like, people don't even like toothpaste drips on the sink. I can't. So I ended up finding a furnished apartment above a bar, and it was 300, I think it's $375 a month the rent was, but it was
Wow.
fully furnished. So I had a bed, and then the next thing I bought was a TV. So I had a TV but no cable. And I would borrow books from the library. I spent a lot of time reading, but that is when I started budgeting the way that I budget right now, which is that I create a 1 year spending plan. So I look at my whole year, what my finances will look like for the whole year, and I started planning out. All right, this is the month when I get, my parents helped me buy pots and pans and dishes, so that was cool. But this is the month where I get a crib. This is the month where I buy a stockpile of baby diapers. This is the month where I start paying for daycare after I have to go back to work when my daughter is 6 weeks old. So that helped me get so much, feel a certain level of control because I knew, well, I know these
Yeah.
paychecks are coming in. I know these bills are coming. I know I've got to take care of these things. So once I was able to lay that out and see, okay, this is when I'm going to do this. It's 6 months from now, but it's going to happen. It really helped reduce that overwhelm.
And I'm literally listening to you formulate what's going to become your
Mm-hmm.
business as you move forward. So
Yep.
you are addressing these. I mean, it sounds like these are principles and pieces of life education that were never given to you that you had to somehow figure out on your own. And now it looks like you're essentially creating a business around, look, I wasn't taught these things. These are things that you need to know. Here's how to do it.
Yeah, and not only that, but most of what we are taught is total garbage, right? We are taught things based on what people know, but in reality, they don't know. So many people are quick to give advice that they truly don't have any idea about. They just know what worked for them, they know what they've been taught. But think about it. Everyone told me that there's no way that I would be able to thrive and make a great life for my daughter because of where I was in life. They could not imagine that there was a path for me that would lead me to become a multimillionaire, that would lead
Yeah.
me to go to Yale Law School. They could not see it. They just didn't understand.
Yeah.
Another thing that they told me, so after living in that apartment above a bar, I'm like, this sucks. After yet another Saturday at 2 a.m., drunken people fighting outside my window, I'm like, okay, we got to do something else. And so I decided to buy my first house. And I started, the mistake I made, right, is telling the people around me that, hey, yeah, I think I'm going to buy a house. And what did everyone say? There's no way I'd be able to afford a
Yeah.
house
Of course.
because, I'm an E3 in the military. At that time, I think I was making $24,000 a year. And they're like, you buy a house? That's not possible. Lance corporals don't buy houses. Single moms don't buy houses. I'm like, well, 7 months later, bought my first house. It was $95,000. It was a 2 bedroom, 2 bath townhouse. But there I was, 20 years old, owning my own home. And people's minds were just like blown because they just didn't know what was possible.